Bugsy Siegel, the gangster who built Las Vegas. One man who dreamed of turning the desert into gold and paid the ultimate price. Benjamin Bugsy Siegel wasn't just another gangster. He was handsome, he was ruthless, he had style, swagger, and a dream. A dream so wild it made the other mobsters laugh. Until it became real. Las Vegas. Born in Brooklyn in 1906 to Jewish immigrant parents, Bugsy grew up in the same streets that bred petty thieves and bootleggers. But he wasn't just looking for survival. He wanted power, and he wanted it fast. By his teens, he had joined forces with his childhood friend, Meyer Lansky. Together, they ran a protection racket, charging pushcart vendors for safety. Anyone who refused didn't stay open long. In the 1920s, New York was bursting with opportunity and bloodshed. Bugsy rose through the underworld quickly, using fear and charm like weapons. He wasn't just a thug, he was sharp, fashionable, even likable, as long as you didn't cross him. When Charles "Lucky" Luciano formed the National Crime Syndicate, Bugsy and Lansky were trusted soldiers, Jewish gangsters in an Italian world. Bugsy helped create Murder, Inc., the enforcement arm of the Mafia. He was their golden boy, with a cold heart and a killer instinct. In the 1930s, Bugsy moved to Los Angeles, not to hide, but to shine. He brushed shoulders with Hollywood's elite, Clark Gable, Cary Grant, studio executives. Bugsy wasn't just in the room, he owned it. His piercing blue eyes, tailored suits, and silver-tongued charm made him a local legend. But beneath the glitz was the same darkness. He ran gambling dens, extortion rackets, and even carried out hits for the syndicate. Bugsy wasn't just acting. He was the real gangster stars tried to copy on screen. In 1945, Siegel was sent to Las Vegas, just a dusty strip of desert with a few bars and no future. But Bugsy saw gold in the sand. He saw an empire of lights, women, money, and control. With mob funding and political favors, he began building the Flamingo Hotel. It would be luxurious, modern, unforgettable, a palace in the desert. But like everything Bugsy touched, it came with chaos. Construction ballooned from $1 million to over $6 million. Delays, stolen supplies, shady contractors. And Bugsy's short temper didn't help. People feared him, but they also doubted him. The mob began to ask questions. Where was the money going? In December 1946, the Flamingo opened and flopped. Rain poured. Half the rooms weren't ready. Celebrities stayed away, and the losses piled up. But Bugsy didn't give up. He reopened months later, and this time it worked. The Flamingo was packed. Vegas was rising. Still, the damage was done. The syndicate had waited long enough. Rumors swirled, accusations flew, and then silence. On June 20th, 1947, Bugsy Siegel was sitting in his girlfriend Virginia Hill's Beverly Hills mansion, reading the LA Times, relaxed. At 10:45 p.m., a rifle fired through the window, 2 shots to the head, one eye destroyed instantly. He never saw it coming. The hit was fast, professional, no arrests, no answers, just a message. The very next day, Mafia associates walked into the Flamingo and took it over. Like nothing had happened. Vegas didn't die with Bugsy, it exploded. Casinos spread, profits soared, and the desert became the new capital of vice. Today, tourists walk past the Flamingo without knowing the blood behind the neon. But the truth is buried beneath the lights. Bugsy Siegel wasn't a saint. He was violent, unstable, and dangerous. But he was also a visionary, the mobster who built Las Vegas and got buried under it. Bugsy's death wasn't just another Mafia hit, it was a warning, a closing chapter. The mob was evolving, becoming more corporate, more business, less chaos. And there was no room left for men like Siegel. Yet, the irony? Everything he predicted came true. Las Vegas exploded. The Flamingo became a template for the modern casino. Part entertainment, part money machine, part kingdom for the underworld. Within 10 years of Bugsy's murder, the Strip was lined with casinos backed by syndicates and silent partners. Vegas became the bank for the mob, untaxed, unchecked, and overflowing with cash. His girlfriend, Virginia Hill, disappeared soon after. Some say she fled out of fear. Others say she knew too much. She died years later in Austria under suspicious circumstances. Another loose end tied up, maybe. And Bugsy? No grave monument, just whispers, myths, a blurred photo in black and white. But behind every jackpot, every luxury suite, and every flashing sign, there's a shadow. The shadow of a man who dared to turn a dusty desert into a kingdom of vice. Not for love, not for glory, but for power. Benjamin Bugsy Siegel, the dreamer, the killer, the man who built Las Vegas and paid for it with his life. Decades after his death, Bugsy Siegel is more legend than man. Hollywood has told his story over and over, sometimes as a villain, sometimes as a visionary. But the truth, he was both. His name lives on in books, documentaries, and mob folklore. Tourists still take selfies at the Flamingo, not knowing the walls were once soaked in corruption and blood. Not knowing that the very birth of Las Vegas, the glitz, the money, the sin, started with a man who was never meant to survive it. Without Bugsy, Vegas might have just been another failed dream in the desert. But because of him, it became the mob's golden goose, a place where dirty money became clean, where mob bosses played golf with senators, and where everything had a price. But Bugsy's story is a warning too. Vision alone isn't enough. Not in the Mafia. If you lose control of the money, you're done. And no matter how charming, loyal, or connected you are, the mob doesn't forgive expensive mistakes. In the end, he wasn't killed by enemies. He was killed by friends. That's the real tragedy of Bugsy Siegel, a man who dreamed too big, moved too fast, and trusted the wrong people. They say Vegas was built on dreams, but that's a lie. It was built on threats, blood money, and the bones of men like Bugsy Siegel. Before Siegel, Las Vegas was nothing, a dirt road in the middle of nowhere, a pit stop for gas and water. But he saw something different, a future, a vision. He imagined a city of lights rising from the sand, a place where the mob could go legit on the surface and make dirty money disappear behind clean casino curtains. Without him, the Flamingo would have never happened. Without him, the mob never would have realized the power of Vegas. And without him, there'd be no Strip, no Bellagio, no Caesars, no Empire. But Vegas was never going to be enough to protect him, because in the mob, your past always catches up. Every dollar unaccounted for becomes a bullet in the chamber. Every betrayal, real or imagined, becomes a reason to make you disappear. And that's what happened to Bugsy. He became too public, too wild, too expensive. His dream came true, but it came with a price. They never gave him a second chance, because in the Mafia, you don't get second chances. You get replaced. His death was brutal, but silent, and Vegas didn't blink. Today, the Flamingo still stands. Tourists check in, gamble, and party under the lights, but they'll never know whose blood turned that desert into gold. Bugsy Siegel, the man who bet everything and lost, but in losing he gave birth to the world's biggest playground of vice. Bugsy Siegel didn't just gamble with cards, he gambled with trust, with lives, with the one thing the mob values most, money. And when the numbers stopped adding up, his story ended the way all mob fairy tales do, fast, quiet, and final. No trial, no warnings, just the barrel of a rifle through a Beverly Hills window. But what makes Bugsy different is that even after his death, his dream didn't die. Las Vegas flourished. The mob made billions. And the American public, they bought the illusion, the glamour, the lights, the shows, never seeing the blood beneath the velvet. You walk through any Vegas casino today, and you'll see Bugsy's fingerprints everywhere. Every chip flipped, every drink poured, every jackpot paid, he made that happen. A gangster with a vision so big, not even death could stop it. And yet, he has no statue, no honored memorial, just a plaque outside the Flamingo, a name in gold letters that tourists pass without reading. That's how the mob remembers its own, with shadows, silence, and whispers. But in those whispers, you'll hear the truth. Benjamin Bugsy Siegel wasn't just a killer, He was a builder, a dreamer, a man who saw something no one else did and paid the ultimate price for chasing it. Vegas didn't kill him. The men who profited from it did. And in the end, that's the most mafia thing of all. Bugsy Siegel didn't just gamble with cards. He gambled with trust, with lives, with the one thing the mob values most, money. And when the numbers stopped adding up, his story ended the way all mob fairy tales do. Fast, quiet, and final. No trial, no warnings, just the barrel of a rifle through a Beverly Hills window. But what makes Bugsy different is that even after his death, his dream didn't die. Las Vegas flourished. The mob made billions. And the American public, they bought the illusion, the glamour, the lights, the shows, never seeing the blood beneath the velvet. You walk through any Vegas casino today, and you'll see Bugsy's fingerprints everywhere. Every chip flipped, every drink poured, every jackpot paid, he made that happen. A gangster with a vision so big, not even death could stop it. And yet, he has no statue, no honored memorial, just a plaque outside the Flamingo, a name in gold letters that tourists pass without reading. That's how the mob remembers its own, with shadows, silence, and whispers. But in those whispers, you'll hear the truth. Benjamin Bugsy Siegel wasn't just a killer. He was a builder, a dreamer, a man who saw something no one else did and paid the ultimate price for chasing it. Vegas didn't kill him. The men who profited from it did. And in the end, that's the most mafia thing of all. In the aftermath of Bugsy Siegel's death, Las Vegas didn't collapse. It exploded. The Flamingo, once mocked, turned a profit within months. More casinos followed, more money, more blood. What Bugsy started, others finished, without the risk, without the vision, without the bullets in the back of the head. Meyer Lansky quietly took over much of the operation. The mob now had a pipeline, from New York to Havana to Vegas, a perfect blend of glitz and crime, masked in champagne and showgirls. But Bugsy? He became a ghost in their empire, a warning, a legend. His friends never spoke of him again. His enemies never needed to. And the FBI? They added his file to a dusty drawer marked unsolved. Some say Virginia Hill knew more than she ever let on. Some say Bugsy was planning to break free, take the Flamingo legit, cut ties with the mob and run his own game. That's the thing about power. Once you taste it, you start thinking you deserve it. The desert buried Bugsy's body, but not his myth. Vegas became his tombstone. Every blinking light on the strip is a tribute, not just to luck and luxury, but to the price of ambition when you play both sides of the gun. And maybe, just maybe, somewhere in the glimmer of the neon lights, Bugsy Siegel is still watching. Not as a gangster, not as a victim, but as the man who saw the future and paid for it in full. Bugsy Siegel's story didn't end in that Beverly Hills mansion. It echoes in every casino, every poker table, every neon glow of the Vegas Strip. He was more than a mobster. He was an architect of fantasy, a dreamer with blood on his hands and stars in his eyes. History often remembers the violent, the ruthless. But Bugsy, he's remembered for the gamble. Not just the Flamingo, not just Vegas, but the gamble that he could outsmart the very beast he helped build, the American Mafia. His legacy isn't clean. It's stained in betrayal, debt, broken alliances, and yet, beneath the blood and betrayal, there's brilliance, audacity, vision. So as we close the book on Benjamin Bugsy Siegel, we remember him not just for what he did, but for what he dared to do. This was Criminal Code, and this was Episode 2, Bugsy Siegel, the visionary who died too soon. Like, subscribe, stay dangerous.